All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So today we're going to be talking about the ratification of the Constitution. All right, we talked about the proposals and how things and bills and things like that have to be proposed, but then they have to be ratified. They have to be approved. And we're going to be talking about the Constitution and how much of a struggle it was to get it approved by the states. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with our warm-up picture. All right, so here's your warm-up picture. So in your own words, read, what's happening here, but in your own words, tell me what's going on, okay? The second question asks you, what do you think this artist is trying to say? What do you think they're trying to say about Trump, Washington, things like that? Um, So look at things like the background, what's being said, the even the way they're drawn. Look at that kind of stuff. Okay. So pause the video, write your response because we're moving on to the notes in three, two, one. All right. So ratification again, it means to basically approve of something. In order for the like an amendment to pass, out of the 13 colonies, it needed 13 states. It needed 9 states to approve it. Same thing goes with the Constitution. They needed 9 states to say, yes, we like it, it sounds good, stuff like that. Delaware was the first state to say, yes, we like this Constitution. It's everything we wanted, everything we're hoping for. Let's get it done. Okay. That was on December 7th, 1787. Okay. Other states followed right away, right alongside them. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut, they were just signing, like, yeah, we agree to it. Let's sign it. So that is 5 states that signed it. Now they need 4 more to agree to it. This is where the problem comes. Some arguments and debates started coming up saying, yeah, this Constitution, yeah, we get it, but there's some problems with it. And it's like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Okay, because you have to remember, we don't have a government going on at this time. People are hurting. Um, Things are not going so well in our country because again, we have no government. Okay, so people are like, oh goodness, what now? What is it? Let's get this thing going. So you're gonna see what the problem was right now. So the group that basically said, hey, we like the Constitution because it gives a central government, it makes it pretty strong, things like that. That was the big problem with the Articles of Confederation. The government was not strong. The Constitution, this one makes the government strong. Okay, those people who liked it were called Federalists. A lot of these people were large property owners. They were merchants. They were artists in big cities. They were farmers who traded with other countries, France, Spain, things like that. The other group that said, yeah, we don't kind of like this Constitution, they felt that, hey, yeah, the national government, it's cool and everything, but it, it seemed like the national government had too much power and they didn't like that. Those people were called the Anti-Federalists. The Anti-Federalists, again, felt that the national government was too strong and they could easily trample on the rights of people. They said, yeah, you made the government powerful, which is okay, but we think you made them too powerful to where they could step on your rights. They wanted a Bill of Rights, which basically guarantees the rights of citizens, saying that the government cannot do this, cannot do that. These are your rights as citizens. And if the government tries to take those rights or violate those rights in any which way, um, they won't be able to do that because, again, that's your right. You are protected. Okay. All right. So going over it again, the Federalists, They wrote 85 essays basically saying how the Constitution is good, that the government will not be too powerful because they have things like checks and balances. That's what we talked about in the last video. Um, there's a lot of things where the government is powerful, but it's not too powerful, that it does limit the power of the government. People who were Federalist: Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, John Jay. Um, Again, now the Anti-Federalist, these guys again felt, hey, yeah, okay, you say the government under the Constitution is limited in power, but the thing is, they are still powerful, and they could step on the rights of not only us, but the states. They could tell states, no, no, this is what you should do. This is how you should do it. When the states should be able to make up their own laws and make up their own rules. Um, so yeah, and on top of that, there's nothing in there that says these are the rights of the citizens. They wanted something on paper that said these are your rights as citizens. People who were anti-federalist: Patrick Henry, Samuel Adams, John Hancock. So between the two, Federalist and Anti-Federalist, which one do you agree with more? Which one do you think you're like, yeah, I think if I was there back at that time, I would be more of these guys than these guys? Um, which ones? If you forgot or you don't really understand, go back, to the last slide or the slide before that and read what each one's about. Okay, read what each one's about and then answer question number one. Okay, so pause the video, but we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right. So the Federalists made a deal with the state of Massachusetts saying, "Hey, okay, look at that. If you ratify this Constitution, we promise to add a Bill of Rights in there." And Massachusetts agreed. Now, here's the thing where a lot of students nowadays can't wrap their minds around this, because a lot of you guys have experienced people lying to you. They promise this, they promise that, and then they don't come through with it. You have to remember, at this time, your word was your bond. When you said something, you would better do it. Especially when you promised it, you would better do it. Because your word was everything. And people knew, like, oh, don't trust him because he breaks his word, quite a bit. So yeah, don't trust him. And that's the reputation that you would have, and you didn't want to have that reputation as someone who broke their promises, gave their word, and turned their backs on that. And especially people like Washington, Ben Franklin, Alexander Hamilton. These guys were seen as heroes, and they knew their word was everything. That people would believe it, and they had to do what they said they were going to do to keep that reputation of, hey, he's a man of his word. Keep that up. So with that, Massachusetts said, yes, we agree to the Constitution. We'll ratify it. So 1791, the promise led to the adoption of the first 10 amendments. That became known as the Bill of Rights. Whenever you hear the term Bill of Rights, your mind should automatically go the first 10 amendments. Okay, in total right now we have 27. Back then, at this time, they didn't have 27. This is only 10. That was the Bill of Rights. Okay, so remember, Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments. Okay, so with that, Massachusetts signed, Maryland signed, New Hampshire signed. They basically now have the minimum requirements to get this Constitution ratified. But the problem is 30% of the country, the total population of the country, are in 2 states, and they have not ratified the Constitution. 30% of the country. That's pretty stinking big. So the framers knew we have to get these two states to ratify the Constitution. Those two states were New York and Virginia. So the framers were like, okay, they're going to have conventions at these two places. We need to send people to both of them. And they send in like the all-star squad. Two at this one place, two at this other place. You're going to see who they were in a second. All right, so here's your next question. When a law or proposal is passed, do you think it's important that the minimum requirements are met, or should a large majority of the people agree with it? Like they vote on it, they say, yes, we accept that. So should the bare minimum 51% requirements be met, and then that's how it should be done? Or should a large majority of the people have to agree to it? Okay. Now, again, it's easy to say, yes, it should be for everyone. Everyone, a lot of people should agree. I've seen a lot of students write stuff like that, but you have to take in consideration this too. If we need like 80% of people to agree on something in order for a law or something to pass, when was the last time 80% of people, even in a small group of 10 people, when was the last time 8 of them agreed to anything, even if it's something they want, something like to eat? When's the last time that happened? You know? So take that into consideration, okay? Keep that in mind as you write your response, okay? So pause the video, but we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, so at the Virginia Convention, I'm sorry about that. I don't know if you could hear that car going by my place. um, in June 1788, the framers sent two famous Virginians. One is the golden child himself, George Washington. The other is James Madison. And these guys give a strong argument for ratification. I mean, they're laying it down and saying how it's important for this country to get through. Look at what's going on. The whole country is suffering. We need this right now. And people are listening. They're at this convention. They're listening. They're like, yeah, okay, yeah, we hear you. Yeah, it's still about those rights. Oh, wish we had them. You know. And again, George Washington, the golden child of not only the country but mainly Virginia, because that's where he's from. Um, he's telling people, you need to ratify this. Listen to me. This is good for our country. This is good. Believe me. I really have faith in this thing. And it's like, oh, dude, you're so awesome. And yeah, I don't know. So it wasn't until James Madison basically promised, okay, look at, if y'all ratify this, we will add the Bill of Rights. You got my word and you got the word of George Washington. You got our word that we will add this. Again, remember I told you the power of the word, of someone's word, that they never broke their promise, things like that. So, especially with Washington on board saying, yeah, I promise, we'll add the Bill of Rights. This made people go, that's very tempting. So they had a vote. 89%, or sorry, 89%. 89 people said yes, 79 said no. This is a 52% yes. That's all it's needed. It's passed. It's going to be ratified in Virginia. Now, up north is in New York. Alexander Hamilton and John Jay, they know for a fact they cannot let the New York people vote yet, because they know those guys are waiting for word from, especially Virginia. New Hampshire too, but mainly Virginia. And so they're stalling. Alexander Hamilton, the king of talking, and he's delaying. He's telling people, "Hey, let's go out for lunch. Let's discuss this. This and that. Oh, let's do this. Hey, tell me what's your problem. Tell me. Let's have a seat and talk." He's delaying. He's stalling because he's waiting for word to come through. He's telling people, "Hey, give us another couple hours. Word's coming in. Washington is talking to the Virginia Convention. You know, it's going to come in any moment now. Okay. And then finally, it comes in. Finally, word comes in that not only did Virginia ratify it, but also New Hampshire. And that's basically it. New York says, okay, we'll ratify it too. And that's just like a big old for the framers and the Federalist. Here's a little fun little fact. The Federalists were actually really upset with the Anti-Federalists, how they were stalling and saying like, we don't know, we want this Bill of Rights, we won't ratify it until we get this Bill of Rights, doing all kind of stuff like that. That the Federalists were actually talking about separating, becoming their own country. So like um, Philadelphia being their own country, a Federalist country, Georgia being their own Federalist country, New York being an anti-Federalist country, Virginia being an anti-Federalist country. So you would have all these states, but they're their own countries, being Federalist or anti-Federalist. Thank goodness that didn't happen because officially our Constitution was ratified July 28th, 1788. So here's your next question. If we had, like I said, Federalist states and anti-Federalist state, and they're all, scattered about, do you think our country would still be here today? You think we'd still be together or things like that? What do you think? You know, again, there was talk about, well, if the anti-Federalists don't agree with us, we're going to be our own, each state is going to be their own country and things like that. You know, do you think eventually we would have come together, or do you think that we'd still be here today, or do you think we would have lasted for another like 10 years and then broken apart? And what do you think would have happened if each state, was an anti-federal state, uh, federal state, things like that, and they're their own country? What do you think would have happened? Okay, so pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, so the only states that didn't ratify the Constitution were Rhode Island and North Carolina, and they weren't really needed at this point. The Constitution was ratified, but still, the Confederation Congress did send some people over to meet with those two states, being like, "Hey, we're going to be called the United States. We need to be united, and this Constitution is one of those things we need to unite on." So eventually, Rhode Island and North Carolina did ratify the Constitution. The first Congress met on March 4th, 1789. Okay, now everyone's all shaking hands. Hey, welcome, Senator, Congressman, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There is no guarantee that this Constitution is going to work. People felt the same, like, hey, this is great, this is going to work. Just like they did with the Articles of Confederation. There is no, crystal ball that says this is going to work. There's none. People are still kind of timid. They're like, is this really going to work? Or is this going to be another Articles of Confederation? And then we're going to have to start this whole thing all over again. What's going to happen? The reason why a lot of Americans didn't freak out, didn't panic, was because of George Washington. He was like, I believe in this Constitution. I think it will work. I think our country will be okay with it. I think we'll be fine. We just got to get this thing done, you know. And because people had faith in him, people believed when he said, I think this will work, people were like, okay, well, if Washington thinks this will work, I think this will work too. So he held and kept up the hope in our country about this Constitution. So not only is this new Constitution created, but also Washington is elected the first president. A little fun fact about Washington, he's the only president we've had who was not part of any political affiliation. Again, we have the Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Those are political parties now. Every president afterwards is either a Federalist, Anti-Federalist, a Whig, Democratic, Republican, Republican, Democrat, things like that, all the way through. Washington's the only one because again, people loved him from both sides. So why pick this side and tick off this other side? Why do that? And vice versa. Why go on this side just to tick off this side? So he was like, I'm just gonna not pick a side. All right, so here's your next question. Do you think there is someone in our country, whether it's celebrity, public figure, sports figure, you know, whatever, you know, even politician, do you think there's someone who could inspire or rally everyone, if not everyone, the large percentage of our country behind them? That they install hope. When they say something, people believe it. They are going to, you know, they may not have faith in it themselves, but because this person believes in this, or because this person says, trust me with this, that people will trust them. People will go along. Can you think of anyone who's like that right now? If you can, tell me who and why do you say that person? If you can't think of anyone, again, I want you to take like a minute or so, time yourself, really think about it. And if you can't think of anyone, tell me like who do you think is up there? Maybe not 80% of the country will follow him, but let's say maybe 40%, 50%, 30%. And why do you say this person, one particular person, who people would listen to more? Why do you say that person? Why do you think um, that person would be up there? Okay, so pause the video, write your response. Okay, um, I don't know why I said pause the video because this is your exit ticket. So once you're finished with the exit ticket, that's it. You're done with this class, all right? Hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Um, but yeah, so that's it. Okay. You guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later, all right?